Hey VC, how's it going? Right, okay, this is a contest entry to Richard McCook's 500 subscriber competition. Well done, Richard, great channel, and he's come up with a great idea for his competition. So the idea is to pick your favourite artist, or an artist I suppose, but in my case it's Prince, you know, obviously. I'm really that predictable, you know, so you've got to put together a 6-track sampler for that artist. You're not allowed to use any of their singles, any singles that were released in the country where you live. So I live in the UK, so I'm not allowed to use any of Prince's singles that came out in the UK. So, but yeah, obviously with the amount of material that Prince put out throughout his career, I think it was 38 albums, there's a fair bit to go at. So trying to whittle it down to just 6 tracks has been quite difficult. But so this is what I've come up with, right? So first up, this is an album that he put out in 2007 called Planet Earth. Now, this is quite interesting because in the US it was distributed by Sony. It didn't get a UK distribution by Sony because they got a little bit annoyed because he struck a deal with the Mail on Sunday newspaper, where the album was given away free with the newspaper. So this album appeared in a couple of million homes one Sunday morning, you know. So and then later on that year he did a residency at the O2 Arena in London. He did 21 nights there. So he played to probably around 500,000 people in that residency. So this album was given away free to anybody that went to those gigs. So around 2.5 million people got this album for free. So obviously the record company didn't think it was worth putting it out in this country, which was a shame really, because I mean, it's not a perfect album, but it's got some really nice moments. One of which is my favourite song from Prince's sort of the latter part of his career, which is a track called Chelsea Rogers, and that's what I'm going to have as my opening track to my album sampler. It's a real Saturday night tune. It's got a real groove to it. It's a real dancer. Yeah, I think it's one of the best things he put out in the sort of last 20 years of his career. Lovely stuff. So this didn't come out on vinyl at the time. It has been reissued on vinyl a couple of years ago, but as I've probably got about 10 different CDs of this album because of, as I say, it was going away with a newspaper, and I saw several of the shows at the O2. Yeah, I didn't think I needed another copy on vinyl, but there you go, track 1. Right. Track 2, another sort of a later release from Prince. This is from 1999, not the album, but the year. He put out this album called Raven to the Joy Fantastic. Now, this was Prince's big comeback album. For a few years, obviously, when he left Warner's, I think about 95, wasn't it? For that sort of 5-year period, he put out a lot of music. And with diminishing returns, really, people started to lose interest. Really around that time, what he needed was a producer. And what happened here was that he signed for a 1-album deal with Arista Records, the head of which at the time was Clive Davis. Now, Clive Davis had just had a massive album with Santana's Supernatural. It sold 22 million copies, and the idea was for Prince to use the same template that Santana did. So that album with Santana, it was a duets album, so you had the likes of Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20, you had Eric Clapton on there, that sort of stuff. So basically with this, you've got Prince working with other artists, so the likes of Gwen Stefani, Sheryl Crow, Annie DeFranco, Chuck D out of Public Enemy. There were several artists featured on here, and the way that Prince worked it was that he didn't pay any of those artists, but he basically struck up a deal that he would do a favour for them. So quite a lot of those artists, you find that Prince turns up on some of their albums from around that sort of period as well. So it's a really interesting sort of time for Prince. But the big reveal here was that when there's a big press conference called, up until this point, Prince had been known as the Symbol. He obviously gave up the name Prince in about 95 with his battle, I think it was 94, wasn't it, with his battle with Warner Brothers, and was just known as the Symbol, which is what features on here. This album came out under the Symbol name as well, but the big reveal was that Prince was, that the artist was going to be working with a different producer. So he got quite excited at the time because, as I say, some of those albums that came out prior to this lacked a little bit of focus. It felt like Prince needed an editor almost. But when the big reveal came, the album was credited to the Symbol, but the album is produced by Prince, which was a real cop-out. It's probably the only time in my time as a Prince fan that I was really disappointed. But saying that, it only lasted till the album came out, because I think this is the best album that he put out for 10 years. Certainly, it was certainly his best album since Love Sexy. Really nice stuff, but again, frustratingly, the best track on here is a hidden track. It's not credited on the back. There are two hidden tracks at the end of the record, two hidden pieces of music at the end of the record. Both songs are better than anything else which is listed on the album, which is frustrating. As this was meant to be his big comeback, it would have sort of made sense to at least list the best songs on the album on the track listing at the back. But hey ho, it's Prince. But that track, for my second choice, is a track called Pretty Man. It's the album that finishes the album. It's an out and out James Brown style funk, and it's just a classic. Again, one of his best songs from the latter part of his career. So that's my second track. Right, okay. My third track. Let's turn it down a bit. Sorry. My third track, my third choice, is from this album. This is Around the World in a Day. Came out in 1985. Now, the song that I've got to include is the third track on this album, which is called Condition of the Heart. For me, I mean, I think it's his best ballad that he wrote throughout his career. Say one of my favourite songs of his, irrespective of whether it be a single or album track. But I don't think I can think of a song that's more Prince than this particular track. It's sung in that falsetto vocal style of his. It's got a real quirky lyric, lots of layered vocals. I think it's an absolutely perfect record. So yeah, certainly the highlight from this album as well, which is saying something. So yeah, third track, Condition of the Heart. Right, so starting off side 2 of my sampler, I'm going to pick something from Sign of the Times. And the track I'm going to pick is the fourth track on the first record, which is the Ballad of Dorothy Parker. Again, one of my favourite Prince songs. Another one which could only really be Prince. It's got a really interesting sound to it, and reading sort of years later an interview with the engineer who worked on this record, it was recorded quite late one night. Prince had an idea for a song, wanted to get in the studio quickly. The studio had to be set up quite quickly for him. And he recorded the song. He loved the sound of it, but it was only afterwards that the engineer realised that only half of the mixing desk was working. The desk hadn't been set up correctly, and for that reason it gives the record a slightly odd sound, or that particular track a slightly odd sound, which works, and you know, it just makes it totally unique. So yeah, so track 4, the Ballad of Dorothy Parker. Right, so the second track on side 2, track 5, I'm going to take something from 1999. Now, I was going to pick Lady Cab Driver, which is a classic, but I decided to go with DMSR, purely because it's just an out and out fun song. What I like about this album is something he didn't really do for the rest of his career. This album is just full of, you know, lengthy, strung out jams, you know, and probably none more so than DMSR, Dance Music Sex Romance. Again, it's just a great Saturday night record. It's a lot of fun, very simple. 10 minutes long. Interestingly, when the album came out on CD in America, the first issue on CD in the early 80s, about 84, wasn't it, I suppose, 84, 85, the album was too long for one CD, but the record company only wanted to put it out as a single CD, so they took one track off the album, and that track was DMSR. Now, for me, 1999 without DMSR ain't 1999. It's just a great feel-good thing. It's got a couple of really nice little touches in there as well. Prior to 1999 coming out, Prince recorded with other artists. He put together the first couple of albums by The Time, for example, and the songs that he provided for those records were credited to Jamie Starr. Now, halfway through DMSR, you've got Prince's slowed down voice declaring that Jamie Starr is a thief. Lots of nice little touches for Prince fans to get involved with, and yeah, that's part of the reason for it. So yeah, track 5, DMSR. And finally, I'm going to go with a track from Love Sexy. So this came out in 1988. The track I'm going to pick is Anastasia. Yeah, again, one of his best songs. I think he always had that thing going on where he could quite easily mix up profanity with religion, you know. I don't know, perhaps that became a bit of a cliche at times, but Anastasia is one of those songs where he references God with the refrain at the end of the song is God is love, love is God, and it really works. It comes across as being sincere. Obviously later on in his life he became a Jehovah's Witness, but at this point in the 80s you weren't sure how much he was using religion as just a prop, really. But I don't know whether that's unfair or whatever. But I say he does come across as sincere with this particular track. So that is my final track on my album sampler. So yeah, congratulations, Richard, and yeah, great stuff. Cheers.